Now then, crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. And a few months ago I posted a video on basically how to fix your winch if it seemed to be a contactor or solenoid problem. Since then I've had 3 more to change. I'm not very impressed by these worn contactors, despite them having little seals all over the place on the screws, and you'll see those in the previous video, and a pretty hefty rubber seal between the 2 halves. Obviously moisture has been getting in, but we're going to pull these apart in this video and see if they've all failed for the same reason. However, just a quick recap on how this relay should be wired up and how you can test it in situ before condemning the contactor and have to go and buy a new one. Now, this is covered in the previous video, but I just want to do a quick recap now. So I've set one up in the vise and I'll show you how it's connected up on the bike and how we can test it. Here we go. Used. Honestly. Right, just very quickly, we've got battery positive here, battery negative on this side. This is a fully charged battery. Now, first of all, we've got on the relay itself, we've got the red terminal. These are the large terminals, got the red and the black. So red is battery positive, so we follow that wire down, it goes to battery positive. And I've tried to get the color codes best I can with the leads that I've got. We've got the black, which is battery negative. So that's the main power in. Now, obviously on the bike, you've got much thicker gauge wires. This is just for testing purposes, so we can use the test leads. Now, we've also got the other 2 pins, the output. These, the yellow and the blue, are the ones that go down to the motor on the bike, and they should switch polarity depending on whether you want to spool in or spool out on the winch. This is a 2-wire winch motor, not 3 for this particular wiring setup. Now, the small terminals, the trigger circuit, the center one is actually, believe it or not, connected to battery negative. That's very, very important when you're testing these. Make sure you connect it up correctly. So that middle one wants to go to battery negative. And then all we need to do, just to listen to the relay, make sure it's clicking first of all, is to energize each of the 2 circuits. So have a listen. There we go. So we know that the armature in the solenoid is moving, and it's moving on both of them. That's actually good news. Doesn't mean to say that the relay is working correctly, but it is good news. Now, let me rig up a multimeter and we should be able to see that voltage switch across. I've got these 2 leads here basically wired up down to the multimeter. Let's get it turned on and see what the readings are. Excellent. So pretty much any multimeter will do, as long as it's got 20 volts DC on there. We've got the 2 leads connected up. The yellow lead here, the yellow pin, is connected to positive, and the black pin here is, sorry, the blue pin here is connected to the negative. At the moment we've got no voltage. The relay is not energized. We'll just energize this side. So I'm going on to the black small terminal. There we go, look, we've got 12.57 volts. That's battery voltage. We'll flick it around and we should see a little minus sign coming up, and that tells us it's flipped the polarity. There we go, look, fantastic. So this relay seems to be working. Okay, so just for clarification purposes, this is the worn, 90886 contactor block. It's what Warn use in many of their current ATV and RoV winches. I've seen quite a few fail. We've done some quick and dirty tests. We know that the armatures are moving. We can hear it click. We also know that the output voltage that will be going to the motor is reversing in polarity when we change across to the other circuit, which will be the switched circuit from the controller, or a dash mounted switch that would say spool in, spool out. I have done a circuit diagram, which is this one here, look. Just to give you a this is for the 2-wire motor, by the way, just to give you an idea. So that's how it's wired up, and that's exactly what I've done down here on the bench. The only difference is where it says here to motor, that's gone to the multimeter. That's the difference. So you can pause the video and you can draw your own little diagram. That's going to help. Now, just because the contactor is showing an output voltage, whether it's positive or negative, depending on the switching, it doesn't mean to say that it can carry any particular current. Now, if this is faulty and it won't carry the current, it could be down to corroded contacts internally. That the symptoms of that would be a very slowly operating winch. You know, the motor would turn quite slow, it wouldn't have very much torque, and therefore you wouldn't have much pull force from the winch when you're using it. Things would also probably get pretty hot pretty quick, especially the contactor block. So to test this properly, we need to apply a heavy load. I've got one, so I'll go and dig that out. I'll get it rewired with some decent heavy wires to the battery, and we'll see if both sides of that relay will actually carry a decent load. Let me get set up. Here we go. Okay, one test we can do is using some halogen headlight bulbs, and I've got 6 of these all wired up in parallel, and each one is 55 watts. You probably can't see that on there, but it's 55 watt halogens. These are a H7, dead easy to wire up. This will apply about a load of about 27 amps. Nothing like what the actual motor will draw. This, I've got the complete winch here actually, from Warren. There you go, look. And this one's all burnt out. User error, I'm sure. But 27 amps, if those bulbs are nice and bright, then, you know, is it conclusive? It's pretty good. We will do a second test using a proper load tester, and we'll see what kind of current that draws. I have no idea, to be honest. Right, let's take a quick look at the setup. It looks a bit messy now because I've used some proper car jump leads and stuff, but the test is good. Here we go. Okay, so we've got the 6 bulbs wired up down here, all onto, basically this is in effect replicating the motor side of the circuit. We've got a couple of big jump leads that go onto the battery. I'm just going to connect the positive. There we go, we're now live. And all I need to do now is connect the battery positive to either side of the contactor block under here. You've seen it earlier on, so you can see what I'm doing. And we'll watch to see if the bulbs light nice and bright. If they do, then there's no point of high resistance in the circuit. If they're dull, then we know that there's an issue inside the contactor block, and that's when you would get a slow motor. Here we go. Wait, that is bright. Okay, we don't need to worry about the polarity reversing. We've already tested for that. Here we go, that's that side. Wow, can't see anything now. Okay, so it's passed that particular test. Now I want to remove the bulbs, and we're going to use a proper load tester, and we'll also use an amp clamp as well, and see how much current we can get to flow through this particular contactor block, and see if we can cope with it. Right, now you may or may not have one of these kicking around or something similar. This is a load tester, really designed for testing batteries, but it gives us a really good load to apply and get the old current flowing. So we'll be using that in conjunction with an amp clamp so we can measure the current flow. You know, if we get it nice and high, then it's more of a conclusive test, isn't it? So you might have this kind of stuff kicking around. If not, your local workshop may, you know, allow or may test it for you, to be fair, if you show them how to wire it up, because they may not know. Okay, right, let's go for it. Right, amp clamp is on. It's pretty much 0. We've got 0.0, sorry, 0.0, so it's fully zeroed now. Now let's energize the relay. So we're just going to connect that. Now, oh geez, no current is going to flow yet, and that's because the load is on a button. So you can see there's no current flowing. Press the button on the load tester, and there we go, look. So we've got 75 amps, just slowly dropping away because of course the battery's got a load on it now. If we look on the back of the load tester while I hold the button down, that will start to glow red in there, look. So if it glows red, we've not got a hell of a load going through that comment there. Yeah, look, you can see that now. You see in there? It's glowing nice and, oh yes, beautiful. So we've got a hell of a load. I would say a higher load than what would normally go through your winch motor for most applications. So we'll turn that off. Brilliant. Now we've only tested one side of the circuit, so we need to energize the other side of the relay now and do the same test. Here we go. Right, just swapping across. Geez, it's a bit precarious as this rig at the moment with all these jump leads around. Okay, we'll stick that one on there. So the relay is now energized on the other side. We're connected to the green terminal. We've got 0 on our amp clamp. Way! Come back. Don't do that. There we go. Okay. Try and be a bit more sensitive to stuff. Right, here we go. So I'm going to apply the load. We've got, again, 76, just dropping away as the battery starts to discharge. 74 amps. If I turn that around again, you should see it start to glow red hot. Oh yes, look at that. So, what have we proved? Well, actually, we've proved that that contactor block that's in the vise is working just fine. I wonder why it was actually replaced. Maybe it was misdiagnosed. Who knows? Anyway, all is not lost. We've got 2 more to test. So we'll crack on with that. And then maybe, if we find a fault on one of these, we'll get it pulled apart and see if it's got the same internal problems as the one on the previous video. Here we go. You know how to wire these things up now, so I'm just going to talk you through it again, but at a distance, so I can engage with the audience. Okay, so the center one needs, so the 3 small pins, the center one is brown. That needs to be connected to battery negative. We'll be using this one to energize either side, you know, the black terminal and the green terminal. So this is the first test. Before we connect anything else, we can do a very quick and dirty test to see if the armatures on either side of the solenoid do in fact move, because one of the problems is when there's internal corrosion, the armature can seize, and we saw that on a previous video. So listen up. Yep, that one's working, and that one's working. Great stuff. Okay, let's get some more test leads. So we'll go battery positive. We'll use the white lead. I never have the right colors, to be honest, so we'll use the white one, and that goes onto the red stud terminal just there, look. And we'll get the black. We'll use the black. Look at that, it's the right color. Use the black, and we can go on to the black terminal. Cool. Now we're going to check for voltage polarity. So we'll get our little multimeter. Stick that down there. You probably can't see that. Maybe you can see it if I stick it, I don't know, on there, on there, on there. I don't know. Maybe it'll work on there. Get something heavy to sit on there. We'll work it out. We'll work it out. 2 more test leads coming up. So we need, steal some off my rig. Hang on. That's 1, 2. Okay. Excellent. So we're going to go green wire off the yellow stud onto the positive of the test multimeter, and yellow off the blue to go onto the black. It really makes no difference. Okay. Now maybe I can just hold that there for you. We'll turn it on to 20 volts DC, and I'll energize one side. Do we get a voltage? We do, 12.37. Excellent. And is it going to reverse? It is, minus 12.34. Perfect. So, this contactor, so far, is working just fine. Next thing to do is to load test it. So let me get those jump leads put back on again, and the load tester, and we'll see if it will actually carry a load. I have no idea. Right, not bothered with the amp clamp. We know it's going to draw about 75 amps. Or do we? Well, as long as it lights up the actual filament, then it will be. Okay, so plan of attack, we need to connect that one. We need to then energize the relay, which is that one there. That gives us a voltage. Oh my God. On here, look, you see that? So we've got the voltage now of 12 volts. I'm going to press the button and we'll wait and see what happens. Right, so we're down to 8 volts, 7.5 volts. Battery's not so clever, is it? Right, let's turn it around. I can feel some heat coming off. You should be able to see the element start to glow orange in a minute. If it does, that tells us that those contacts inside the contactor are capable of carrying a high current, which is good news. There we go, look. See that glowing red hot in there? Orange. Of course you can. There you are, look, perfect. Okay, so that's that one passed. All I need to do now is swap that across. I can do that from this side onto this one. And we'll let that cool for a second. And we'll do the same test again. So we've got we've got the voltage showing again. That's good. And ready to energize. 3, 2, 1. Press the button. Is it going to glow orange? Remember, this was taken off for a reason. And again, look at that. We've got orange. We're glowing red hot inside the load tester, which means that there's nothing wrong with this this solenoid block. Oh, honestly, misdiagnosed again. So what's going on? It looks to me like these solenoids, these contactor blocks, the first two at least, have tested out A-OK. They've been replaced for the wrong reason. They've been misdiagnosed. I have a sneaky suspicion it might be down to the fact that the actual studs maybe have got corroded, and when they've taken the wires off and put the new one on, obviously they'll have cleaned up the contacts and they will have fixed the problem, but potentially they wouldn't have needed to replace the contactor block. So anyway, we've got one more to go. Let's do our tests on this, and then we'll pull one apart. Geez, what's going on? If nothing else, it proves without any doubt that some techs out there don't know how to test these things properly, and they just sort of, we'll replace that just to be on the safe side. Not a great way to do a job, really, is it? Okay, so remember the click test first, just quick and dirty off the battery. Can we hear both sides of the contacts click? Well, there is some current draw. Look, we can see a spark, but there's no click. So that tells us the winding inside is intact, and a magnetic field no doubt will be being created, but the actual armature itself isn't reacting to that magnetic field being created, and it's not moving, probably because it's rusted solid. Let's try this side. Yep, exactly the same problem. So again, no click, no loud clunk. Okay, so this one has completely failed. There's no point in doing any more testing. Now, just to clarify, I had no idea that this one was going to fail. I just have been sent all three because they were reported as failures, and it just happens to be that the last one we tested is the one that doesn't work. And it was a very simple test right at the start. We don't have to do, we can't do any other testing on this thing. We have to dig our way in. So, first thing to do is we're going to remove the screws down the bottom here, look, and that's going to expose the windings. And we might get a rough idea, you know, initially if there's been any water ingress and is there any corrosion. So let's crack on and do that. This is the interesting stuff now, isn't it? I'd love an autopsy. Right, here goes. I'm going to work around the camera so you get a really good view of what's going on. Okay, so we're going to remove this bottom piece. There's 4 screws, 2 at the back and these 2 here. Super quick. Full of mud, by the way. Now this, it's highly likely it's not going to go back together. It's really just junk. But we can learn from it. That's the important thing, isn't it? We can understand, by seeing inside, we can understand how they work. And you'll see all of that in the previous video, to be honest. Oh, there we go. Oh, look at the corrosion on that. Warn, your seals are not working at all. Geez. Okay, so these here, I remember all this now. These are the armatures, and they should be free moving and spring loaded, so that when if you push them down, they should spring back. And that one there, look, it does move, but it sure as hell doesn't spring back. What's this one like? Oh, that one sees solid. Okay, now last time in the previous video, I then destroyed all this bit working my way in. We then learned at the end of that video that underneath this sticker, if we take that off, we don't need to reference these anymore. There are actually 2 more screws underneath here under all the mud. So I'll get a little pick, we'll clean that out, and we'll get those screws taken out. I love it when a plan comes together. Now it's usually at this point in the video that I normally stab myself, so hopefully not this time round. That one shouldn't be too bad. Get rid of the farm. There we go, look. Now, obviously this contactor block hasn't been mounted in an area which is stays relatively clean. They're obviously getting a lot of mud and water thrown up onto them. Jeez, I might need a different screwdriver. Bear with me. Let's try this one. Nope, that's definitely not going to fit. Not on that one anyway. Let's try this. Oh yeah, we've got some movement. Jeez. Alright, that's one. It's a long screw. Okay. I'm going to put it in the vise and give it a tap because the head of that screw is pretty rounded. Bear with me. Can you see? I think you can. Don't know how successfully. We might have to drill it out. We'll see. Right. Man, that's really rounded. Bugger. All right. Well, where's me drill? You can never have a good autopsy without using a drill, can you? Nearly there. Did you see it give? I saw it give. And there's the head of the screw on the drill bit. Super. Right, now we also need to undo all of these nuts. Hopefully they're a 10mm. They are. M10. No, not M10. 10mm spanner size, M6. Nice nuts there, brass. Good job, Warren. Oh, it's getting tight. We might need some lube. I'll get a spray for the other two. Don't trust myself. I don't want it to twizzle around and break the casing. Right, use a bit of black magic. That'll do the trick. It's good stuff, this actually. It's from Forge S411. Perfect. Cheers, Jared. Oh, look at that. So much easier. I will be keeping those nuts though, they're very good. But you can't wait to see inside. What we're going to expect, we're going to see lots and lots of corrosion on these contacts. I mean, we've already found the fault of why the armature's not moving, because there's corrosion down, you know, by the actual solenoid part. Now, where's my pick? There we go. You can see better now, can't you? Because you were telling me, Andy, move the camera. We can't see. Okay, it's like a little insulator, I think, or is it steel? No, it's a steel washer. And then underneath, Warren has put these nice little O-rings in an attempt to keep the moisture out. Well done, Warren. They're not bad company. I've had lots of Warren winches and they've been really good, but that's one of the reasons why these little contactor blocks really they sort of concern me because I'm seeing quite a few fail. But saying that, out of a batch of 3 suspected or identified as fails, only one of them is actually faulty. So what does that tell you? Maybe a bit more training required. Okay, I think we're all out. Okay, here we go. This should now, in theory, lift off. Although we do have those contacts. That's right, we have to desolder these contacts or cut them. In this case, I'm going to cut them because I can't bother to desolder them. Bear with me. Right, so we've got some snippy snips. Let's just do that. Sorry, Warren. That's that one. This one is a bit easier. Do that, and then we'll do that and that. Maybe that's going to help a little bit. There we go. Look, so we've got the bottom bit off now. That's just the solenoid part, which is completely seized. And now we should be able to take that off. Cool. And we can actually see inside now, can't we, from the top? So let's just pop that back in the vise gingerly, and we'll have a little look. Now remember that we didn't find fault. We couldn't test because these weren't working. We couldn't test this part. So let's just take it apart slowly and see what kind of condition it's in. Is that going to come out of there? Yeah, there we go, look. So that's one of the studs. And these are the contact points. Again, we've seen these in the previous video, but they are actually quite badly corroded. That one's not too bad. It's got a lot of dust on it. But this one looks a lot more blackened, and there is some green crusties just starting on the outside edge. Okay, that's that bit. Now, what else have we got? Okay, this should now come out. Jeez, fly, go away. Okay, so this is the bit that jumps up and down. It's pushed basically in either direction by the armature. That sits in the end of the armature like that, and when the armature comes up, it pushes it up and causes, obviously when it's not pushed up, it's creating a contact, you know, on other pins. But again, that doesn't look too bad, does it? We've got, you know, a bit of dust on there. That's in pretty good nick. Turn it over. These ones are a bit more burnt, a bit more used. Oh, nasty. Again, a slight amount of green crust is just starting to form there. Now, let's pull this one out. This is onto the other pin. Again, beyond that O-ring, we've got green crusties developing, so the O-ring isn't working worn. We've got moisture ingress, and we've got contacts here. This contact is in very good condition. Flick it over, and this one isn't quite so good. It's got a bit of blackening of the surface, but there's no real pitting. There's no you know, irregular surface. It's nice and smooth, which is good. Right, so let's try this side. Let's pull that one out first. Oh my word. Oh, look at that. One of the springs is completely corroded away. That was the same problem we found in the other one. Anyway, let's have a little look at these contacts first. So again, they're not bad. Flick it over, and we're starting to see more corrosion again. This contact here is completely white for some reason. What's going on there? Where's the little wire brush? Hang on. So it cleaned up pretty well. There is a small amount of pitting around that area there. And this one's not too bad at all. But we've found another fail. So not only have we got seized armatures on the actual solenoids themselves, which is obviously going to render the whole thing junk to start off with, we've got a spring on this side, which is not too bad. A little bit of corrosion. Still sort of springy, still works. This side, the spring has completely corroded away. It just... Jeez, there's something on there. I think there's bits of spring that are fused into position. Yes, there's some more of the spring, look. Wow. To go from that to that? Really? That's a hell of a lot of corrosion. Now there's some more of it, look. on the floor. Got to go in the bin. In the bin, says Mighty Car Mods. Jeez. Okay. There we go. That's that other one out. Again, contacts are not too bad. So, we found two problems. What's this one like? We can get rid of that now. Oh, again, there's a lot of, you know, you can tell that moisture's been getting in. It's pretty badly corroded. The contact points, they're alright. They're actually not bad. They're not bad at all. So that was fun. Hopefully you've learned a little bit. Move the camera while he's talking. Sorry. Hopefully you've learned a little bit from this video. I mean, the first two tested out fine, but you know, I showed you how to test them. We did the click test. We did the reverse polarity test. We did the load test. 3 different tests on that particular, on each of those first two. And then the last one that we checked wouldn't even do the click test. You know, we heard nothing. Pulled it apart, so we found out the reason for that is that the armatures are both completely seized, pretty much, in the solenoids. Junk, absolute junk. As regards other faults, we found that that spring, which is on the floor, had completely corroded away. It should have looked a bit like the other one, which is that one there, look. But it hadn't. It's gone. It turned to dust, pretty much. Which is another reason why that, you know, the relay wouldn't have worked. The armature would have, you know, if it was moving, would have been pushed up by the magnetic field to move the contacts, and then there's nothing to push it back. Didn't work. So, another classic case of moisture ingress into your worn, what is it? 90886-A2 contactor block. They are not waterproof, people. They really categorically, fundamentally are not. Before we sign off, I know the other 2 relays worked, but let's just pull the bottom half off, just those 4 screws, and see if they've started to degrade due to moisture ingress as well. I'm interested to find out. I bet you are. Here we go. Okay, here goes, real quick. I want to have a little, in fact my lunch is ready, so I've got to crack on. Hence the power tools, right. Okay, one. What's going on? Has this one stayed sealed? I don't know. Oh, look at that. It's like a new one. Bloody good. And you can see here, this is how they should be. See, look. Nothing wrong with that. Right, I'll pop that back together a bit later on. Let's get rid of the screws. They were working well, those. Okay, so this is the very first one that we tested. Let's see what this one's like inside. Right. Oh, look at that. It's like new as well. Fantastic. I've got to find a use for these now. Bloody good. So there you go, another helpful video from Andy Mechanic. I've been waiting to pull these apart for quite some time. They've been sat in my cupboard, well, for months in actual fact. I'm really pleased we got around to doing this video today, and I've learned a bit more. I've learned that there are some out there that are not in bad nick at all. I've also learned that there's quite a few out there that do get moisture ingress, and if you get once you get moisture ingress, it's very quickly downhill. Some of these are, I think this contactor block was only a few months old when it failed. I mean, look at the corrosion in there. It's terrible, isn't it? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, found it helpful, entertaining, fun, informative, helped spread the knowledge of how to test these things, why not give me the thumbs up? Why not tell all your friends through your social media about this great, awesome YouTube channel that you found? I know, you don't have to, but it'd be great if you did. You can always subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and our friends at YouTube will send you a notification whenever I upload any new videos. If you get bored, there's already about 550 videos on the channel. So, you know, you've got plenty of time. Go through the archive. I'm sure you'll find lots of other interesting videos. I would suggest watching the first video, and I'll put a link in the description or put a link somewhere, or you can find it. I'm sure you'll find it pretty easy. Watch the first video of pulling one of these apart, because it's a bit more in-depth on the testing, I think, a bit more close-up camera shots, and the autopsy when we pull the thing apart as well is a lot more critical, and there's a lot more wrong with it, to be fair. You'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Feel free to communicate through any of those portals. My email address, my personal email address, is down the bottom, and it is me that answers those emails. So I can't guarantee I'll always reply. I'm a pretty busy chap, but if you want to send me an email, please do. If this video has helped you to fix a particular fault, let me know. It's great to have some feedback. It's nice to know that I'm being helpful. If you want to support the channel, and there are a few out there that do, and those that have done so far, again, thank you very much. It really is appreciated. I couldn't do this without your help. You can support the channel through Patreon. There's a link on the homepage, as is there's a link to the PayPal option as well, where you can just send through a few dollars using the andymechanic@live.co.uk email address. Okay, crew, my bacon butty is getting cold. I'm going to sign off until next time. See you around. Cheers. Over and out. And we get the flip. Oh!